Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of William Shakespeare's absolute best and most enduring romantic comedies, As You Like It. I mean, have you ever just wanted to pack it all up, leave the toxic daily grind behind, and escape into the woods to figure out who you actually are? Well, if so, you are going to absolutely love this story. Written right around 1599, this play is basically a masterclass in how stepping completely outside of your normal environment can trigger some massive personal transformation. We're going to unpack love, identity, friendship, and the literal healing power of nature.
We're anchoring our whole journey today with this incredibly iconic quote. It's spoken by the melancholy philosopher Jacques in the play, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." Now, this is arguably one of the most famous lines in all of English literature, right? But I want you to look at it not just as classic poetry, but as an actual playbill for our explainer today. This entire story revolves around the different roles we play in life, the ones forced on us by society, and the ones we finally get to choose when we're free to write our own script.
Here's our roadmap for untangling this web of characters. We're going to start in the corrupt royal court, escape to the forest of Arden, untangle a complicated love triangle, witness some forgiveness and transformation, get to the happy ending, and wrap up with themes for the stage. Let's kick things off with part 1, the corrupt royal court, dealing with jealousy and banishment.
Take a look at this sharp contrast between our two primary settings. On one hand, we've got the royal court. This place is defined by corruption, extreme jealousy, and violence. It literally represents everything toxic about ambition and high society. But then, on the flip side, we have the Forest of Arden, a place of total peace, freedom, and honesty. Shakespeare sets up this huge dichotomy right out of the gate to highlight the intense psychological shift our characters are about to go through. Basically, the idea is you can't heal until you leave the place that's making you sick.
So what exactly is making them sick in this royal court? Well, mistreatment is just running rampant. We meet a young nobleman, Orlando, who's being totally abused and denied his rightful inheritance by his cruel older brother, Oliver. Desperate to prove himself, Orlando challenges, and actually defeats, the court's famously unbeatable wrestler, Charles. Now, watching this match is our brilliant heroine Rosalind, and boom, they fall in love at first sight. But of course, the joy doesn't last. The usurping Duke Frederick, who by the way already stole power from his own brother, Duke Sr., gets intensely jealous of Rosalind's popularity with the people. Out of pure paranoid jealousy, he just abruptly banishes her. But in a gorgeous display of loyalty, Duke Frederick's own daughter, Celia, straight up refuses to let her cousin Rosalind be exiled alone.
Moving right along to part 2, escape to the forest, where they find freedom in Arden. Now, traveling as two wealthy noblewomen in the 16th century is incredibly dangerous. So for their own safety, they make a massive decision that essentially drives the whole plot. They adopt disguises. The brilliant Rosalind uses her height and wit to disguise herself as a young man named Ganymede. Meanwhile, Celia dresses down as a humble country girl named Alina. Oh, and they bring along Touchstone, the court fool, because, well, you always need some comic relief, right? By totally changing their identities, they strip away all those heavy expectations of their royal birth. They're finally free from the strict, suffocating rules of the court. When they finally reach the Forest of Arden, they discover Rosalind's exiled father, Duke Sr., is already living there quite happily with his loyal followers. He delivers this absolute gem of a line, "Sweet are the uses of adversity." And honestly, that perfectly captures the whole vibe of the forest. These characters figure out that their incredibly difficult banishment, their adversity, is actually leading them to freedom, wisdom, and a much deeper connection to nature. They're just out there living off the land, completely free from all that political backstabbing.
Which brings us to part 3, a complicated love triangle. Get ready for some chaos and comedy. This is where things get hilariously chaotic. Orlando is literally running around the forest, hanging love poems to Rosalind on the trees. Rosalind finds him, but remember, she's currently disguised as the young man Ganymede. Meanwhile, we've got a local shepherd named Silvius who is just desperately in love with a shepherdess named Phoebe. But Phoebe isn't having it. She rejects Silvius and instead falls head over heels for Ganymede, who, again, is actually Rosalind. It is a massive comedy of errors. Shakespeare uses this tangled web to playfully roast gender roles and the sheer foolishness of unrequited love. The absolute peak of all this absurdity happens between Rosalind and Orlando. Rosalind, still disguised as Ganymede, walks right up to the wildly love-struck Orlando. Without giving herself away, she tells him that she can actually cure him of his lovesickness.
Her plan? She tells Orlando to practice his romantic wooing on Ganymede, who will just pretend to be Rosalind. And the crazy thing is, Orlando happily agrees. He has absolutely no idea that he is practicing his flirting on the actual real Rosalind. It's such a hilarious setup, but it actually gives Rosalind the perfect cover to test Orlando's character and make sure his love is the real deal before she reveals who she really is. Now things take a serious turn in part 4, forgiveness and transformation. This is all about a brother's redemption. This sequence builds so fast. Orlando's cruel brother, Oliver, arrives in the forest hunting him down. But while Oliver is asleep under a tree, he's actually stalked by a hungry lioness. Orlando just happens to walk up on this scene. Now, think about it. Orlando has every single reason to just let the lioness eat his brother. I mean, this is the guy who abused him and chased him out of his home. But instead of taking that sweet revenge, Orlando acts with incredible heroism. He fights off the beast and saves Oliver's life. This singular act of pure grace completely shatters Oliver's hatred. He realizes how awful he's been, sincerely repents, and transforms into a genuinely kind brother. And just to tie a neat little bow on it, the newly reformed Oliver quickly meets and falls in love with Celia. All right, let's look at part 5, the happy ending and revealing the truth.
At this point, Rosalind decides enough is enough. The confusion has to end. She promises everyone that all their romantic drama will be totally solved the very next day. So she finally drops the Ganymede disguise and reveals her true identity. With the truth out in the open, everything falls into place. Rosalind marries Orlando, Celia marries the reformed Oliver, Phoebe, realizing she obviously can't marry a woman, finally accepts the devoted Silvius, and even Touchstone the Fool marries a country girl named Audrey. The whole story just explodes into this joyous musical celebration with 4 different couples, proving that, in the end, honest and faithful love really does win out.
But wait, what about the massive political threat of the corrupt Duke Frederick? Well, amazingly, even the biggest political conflict in the story gets resolved peacefully. Word arrives that Duke Frederick actually marched an army to the edge of the forest. But right before he could attack, he crossed paths with a holy man. This single conversation triggers his own profound transformation. He literally drops his violent ambitions on the spot, embraces a life of quiet contemplation, and voluntarily gives the dukedom back to Rosalind's father, Duke Sr. It brings this incredible peaceful closure to the whole play without a single drop of blood being spilt. Let's wrap things up with part 6, themes for the stage, and what we actually learned from all this.
These core themes are exactly why As You Like It still hits so hard today. First up, love. Shakespeare doesn't just give us fairy tale romance. He shows us loyal love, foolish love, unrequited love, basically proving it's just a messy, beautiful human experience. Then there's disguise. Sometimes, we have to put on a mask just to figure out who we really are and speak our truth safely. Third is nature versus the court. This is a timeless reminder about the healing power of escaping toxic environments. Honestly, we all need to find our own forest of Arden sometimes. Fourth, forgiveness. Orlando saving Oliver proves that extending grace is way more powerful than holding on to revenge. And finally, friendship. That unbreakable ride-or-die bond between Rosalind and Celia, it is truly one of the greatest examples of female friendship in all of literature.
I think this incredibly witty observation from Touchstone, the court jester, perfectly nails the play's overarching moral. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. Real wisdom, it turns out, comes from self-awareness. It's about looking at our own flaws, our own silliness in love and life, and just accepting it. And as our characters showed us, you usually only find that kind of self-awareness when you step back from the intense pressures of society and reconnect with something authentic. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If all the world really is a stage and we're all merely players, what role is your true self waiting to play? Seriously, when you finally strip away your everyday disguises, when you escape the toxic courts of your own life and retreat to your own personal forest, who are you actually meant to be? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.